Ellie tossed and turned. Sleep wouldn't come. Her mind was a whirlwind of unsettling thoughts, each one more disturbing than the last. The skeletal reindeer's glowing eyes, the chilling laughter, it all replayed in her mind. The haunting images refused to fade, growing more vivid with each passing second. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind against the window pane sounded like approaching footsteps. The house seemed alive with unseen terrors. She glanced at Lily, her daughter sleeping soundly in the next room. The sight of her peaceful face brought a momentary sense of calm. A wave of protectiveness washed over her. She knew she had to stay strong for Lily's sake. Whatever was happening in Winter Hollow, she had to shield Lily from it. The darkness outside seemed to press in, but she wouldn't let it touch her daughter. The grandfather clock downstairs chimed 3 times, each clang resonating like a death knell. Ellie shuddered, the sound echoing through the silent house. Something was terribly wrong. She could feel it in her bones. The air was thick with dread, and Ellie knew this night was far from over. Daylight brought little relief. The sun's rays did little to chase away the shadows that seemed to cling to the town. Ellie found a cryptic message scrawled on her doorstep, written in a language she couldn't understand. The symbols were strange, almost otherworldly. It looked ancient, like something out of a forgotten ritual. The paper felt old, as if it had been preserved for centuries. A cold dread gripped her heart. She could feel the weight of the message pressing down on her. This was more than just a harmless prank. The atmosphere around her home felt charged with an unseen energy. Someone or something was sending her a warning. The figure in the distance seemed to be watching her every move. Later that day, while shopping for groceries, Ellie noticed the townsfolk were behaving oddly. Their actions were mechanical, almost robotic. Their faces were vacant, their eyes glazed over, as if their minds were elsewhere. It was as if they were under some kind of spell. Their usual friendly demeanor had been replaced by an unsettling silence. Fear gnawed at her, growing with each passing moment. It felt like everyone knew something she didn't, something terrifying. The air was thick with unspoken secrets, but what could it be? The question echoed in her mind, leaving her more anxious with each passing second. As dusk settled, Ellie decided to take Lily for a walk to the town square, hoping some fresh air would calm her nerves. But the square, usually bustling with activity, was eerily deserted. The silence was unnerving, even the birds were quiet. Lily, sensing her mother's unease, gripped her hand tightly. A thick fog began to roll in, shrouding the town in a blanket of white. Suddenly, Ellie heard it. A low, haunting melody drifted through the fog, sending shivers down her spine. It was beautiful yet terrifying, a chorus of voices chanting in unison. Gap 3S. Ellie and Lily, driven by instinct and fear, found refuge in the old church at the edge of the town. The heavy wooden doors creaked as they closed behind them, shutting out the fog and the haunting melody. Inside, the air was cool and still, the scent of burning candles mingling with the musty aroma of aged wood. The pews were empty, save for one figure, a frail, elderly priest who looked up as they entered, his eyes filled with a mix of sorrow and urgency. "Father, please," Ellie pleaded, her voice trembling. "What is happening out there?" The old priest stood slowly, his movements deliberate and weary. "You have heard the choir," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It is a manifestation of a curse placed on Winter Hollow centuries ago." Ellie's eyes widened in shock. "A curse?" Long ago, the townsfolk wronged a powerful sorceress. In her dying breath, she cursed this place, condemning it to be haunted by the voices of the damned. The choir you hear is their eternal song of sorrow and vengeance. Lily clung to her mother, her small frame trembling. "Is there no way to stop it?" Ellie asked, desperation creeping into her voice. "There is one way," the priest replied, his eyes locking onto Ellie's. "You must confront the choir in the heart of the forest. Only there can the curse be broken." A heavy silence fell over the church as Ellie absorbed his words. She looked down at Lily, her resolve hardening. "I will do it," she said, her voice steady. "I will face the choir and end this curse, for my daughter and for this town." The priest placed a trembling hand on her shoulder. "May the strength of the righteous guide you, child." With renewed determination, Ellie took Lily's hand and stepped back into the night, prepared to face the terror that awaited them in the heart of the forest. Out of the fog emerged a procession of figures cloaked in dark robes, their movements almost ghostly as they glided through the mist. Their faces were hidden behind silver masks which glinted eerily in the dim light. They moved with an unnatural grace, as if they were floating rather than walking. Their steps were silent against the cobblestone streets, making no sound at all. This was the source of the haunting melody that filled the air. As the townsfolk slowly gathered, drawn by the eerie tune, Ellie felt a growing sense of dread. The hypnotic song seemed to pull everyone in, their vacant stares returning as if they were in a trance. Their bodies swayed rhythmically to the music, moving in perfect unison. They seemed captivated, completely under the spell of the haunting hymn. Ellie felt entranced, but she knew she had to get Lily out of there. This was wrong, deeply wrong. The air felt thick with an unnatural energy. But as Ellie turned to leave, her heart pounding in her chest, she felt a hand on her shoulder. A cold, metallic hand that sent a shiver down her spine. Turning back slowly, her breath caught in her throat. One of the robed figures stood before her, its presence overwhelming, its masked face tilted down as if examining her closely, scrutinizing her every move. "You cannot escape the music, child," a voice whispered from behind the mask, the words chilling her to the bone. The voice was soft yet commanding, sending chills down Ellie's spine. "It calls to you too." Ellie felt a wave of terror wash over her. The haunting melody seemed to grow louder, echoing in her mind, refusing to let her go.